Hello everyone, this is Bobbin Threadbare, and welcome back to Sleeping Dogs. Yesterday was a pretty heavy episode, and at the moment the only story mission left is to finish off the current case. But that's not what I'm going to do, no. Instead, today's episode is special, because we're going to be doing the in-game DLC, the Zodiac Tournament. We're dressed up for it and everything. A banana yellow bodysuit. It's very familiar if you happen to know a certain old Hong Kong superstar's body of work. And it's actually appropriate, given what the Zodiac Tournament is based around. I mean, it's not the exact same movie, but, you know, same lead actor. Alright, if you say so, buddy.
Fire up the 1100 NAR and feel 195 brake horsepower take you through the gears with...
Yeah, we don't need to see the drive over. Especially because you don't get to admire the banana look. Man, this...
You need food? I got good duck.
I'm starving.
What did I tell you? You look like a new man.
Yeah, I do have to say that the actor in question pulled off the bodysuit a lot better than Wei does, so I'm kind of glad that the DLC takes away your dressing decisions. You are forced to wear a specific set of outfits during the DLC, and it's for the best. Interesting collective of people we've got here. A lot of karate gis. I think I got enough. Most of the way through the melee tree. Oh yeah, they're going all in on this. Fun. And yeah, everything's sort of yellowed and washed out. But only here. Oh, and look at this.
Each statue represents a fighting style we will see on this island. The mixed martial arts style combines wrestling with striking. It can pose problems for conventional martial artists.
It's a rather simplistic way of putting it, but I understand you only got like one sentence to describe the whole fighting style. But yeah, there are 12 fire opal statues instead of jade scattered on the island. If you find all 12, you get a bonus. Also, you may notice, but the mini-map is not exactly aligned with the actual map. So it's a little disconcerting. But yes, this is the tiny island, by the way, that's in the upper right-hand corner of the map.
Kung Fu is the favorite style of Wei Shen. It features smooth flowing moves and quick counterpunches.
And I don't think you need to watch me, you know, swim all the way back, so I cut that out. If there's one major disappointment with this DLC, it's that they copy-pasted the entire temple on the mainland, or on the main island, I should say, and dropped it right in here. I mean, there's a few differences, mostly cosmetic.
My TIE fighters strike with elbows and knees. I cannot speak to what they sound like when they do.
I feel like that's a reference to something, that last sentence.
Sanshu, free fighting. Watch for their counter punches, which are often as damaging as their attacks.
Yeah, you do get a lot of these statues like straight off the bat. It's a small island, you know. It's a small DLC, in fact, which is why I am doing the entire thing in this one video.
Welcome, gentlemen, to Zodiac Island. You all know the rules. Over the next few days, you will compete in a series of battles. Your strength, your skill, and your courage will all be tested. Your audience are the richest and most powerful men in all of Asia. Each has paid $1 million for the privilege of being here. They will wager far more on your performance. Do not disappoint them. You are the best of the best of the best.
This is insane.
No others could survive the challenges that my island will put before you. Even so, only one of you will emerge triumphant. Only one can be champion.
You know, just based on what he said, it isn't that insane.
Who are you?
Song Fang, from Kowloon. You heard of me?
Nope. Should I have?
Won the Fight Club circuit 5 years running. Hope you like second prize. Ha 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 ha!
Ha ha ha. Okay. But yeah, like, there's a bunch of fights to the death, but we don't know that yet. Also, this interesting note, if you hammer X when you face this thing for long enough, you get a damage boost. It's shorter term than the one for the energy drink, but it stacks.
Mr. Shen, I am an admirer.
Thanks.
You helped out my uncle. He has a stall in the North Port Night Market.
No problem.
No. I am in your debt. I hope that I'll be able to repay you one day. In the meantime, I wish you the very best luck. I know you will not need my help to defeat these fools.
Interesting outfit decisions. But yeah, the fights themselves are incredibly deadly.
So what's your story?
Carl Chu. You from the mainland?
Nah. Grew up in San Francisco.
Really? Hope you brushed up on your fighting, Yankee. This ain't no tournament for amateurs.
But he didn't say anything about the fights being deadly in his speech, so...
So what's your story?
I'm here for the prize. You?
Yeah, same.
Got bills to pay, you know? Used to break legs. This seems a little more fair.
So Wei Shen's reaction seems a little out of whack.
Hey, you fighting?
What's it look like, moron?
Hey, what's your problem?
I don't like stupid questions. Or stupid people. Or son on ye assholes. You score 3 out of 3. I'll kill you right now!
What's your run?
Why wait for the starting gun?
You're not happy to kill you in the ring, idiot.
Either this guy is blocking a lot, or he is a very big tank. It's kind of hard to tell. Pretty sure he's blocking, though. which is weird because I think he's a grappler. Yeah, it's never taken me this long to take him down before. He was definitely blocking.
You're pathetic.
Even though the sound effects are the same as when I'm hitting him. Kind of confusing.
Kenpo, a Japanese import. But the true masters will tell you it originated here many thousands of years ago.
Alright, well, we've talked to all of the fighters, and... Okay, that was odd. We've talked to all the fighters, so now we'll talk to the guy in charge.
Hey, name's Wei Shen.
Good luck, Wei Shen. Welcome to the qualifying round.
Qualifying?
Get your bets in, gentlemen.
This arena is fun.
Young man is awesome. You want to double down?
Because you get to set people's heads on fire. And every time you do, fires around the arena burst up and they set other people on fire. So yeah, you don't need to punch out a single person here. You can just murder them all.
Ah, brother, I'm so sorry. Mine is
Yeah, the special type enemies, you do have to push to get them over the flame, like this. But yeah, you can do everybody. Goddamn everybody.
Bring it on!
That crazy chick sitting on the wall there.
How much is...
I'm no hooker. You have no class.
Oh jeez. I got two guys with this one.
What if you're not getting paid?
Oh, damn it. Yeah, he kind of got a free hit on me. Because he got to use his grapple on me from behind. But I'm in face mode, so... Oh, damn it. Face mode just ran out. So I guess I won't be setting literally everybody on fire. Too bad. And I got into face mode.
The winner by fire and blood is Wei Shen.
Mostly fire.
Seriously, that's the best you can do.
Alright, looks like my attack boost is still good, so I won't use the practice dummy. Now it's time to actually explore this island. Sort of. Well, first let's keep going with our statue collection.
Wing Chun is particularly effective at close range.
Oh yeah, Wing Chun. Might have heard about that one. Or you will soon.
Ah, karate. This school has a lineage that stretches back thousands of years.
Although Wing Chun is a kind of kung fu, so it's weird that they've got both. And yeah, I could be going at full bore here, but there's a reason I'm just pleasantly jogging through. And it's not just to enjoy the scenery. Although I am enjoying the scenery.
Help! Help! My fingers are slipping! Hey!
Great death scream there. Gonna win that Oscar for sure. But yeah, this is the unique part of... Oh, hello there. That's why I'm jogging. To avoid running into those things. There's a ledge down here.
Fanzi, the school of the tumbling fist. We shall see, gentlemen, whether that squad can hold up against fierce competition.
But yeah, this is the unique part of the map. These island walks and the arenas at the end of them. And this nice view of the city. Yep, nothing's gonna pop out of these wooden platforms, so I can just rush across them. Man, not many people can handle these pleasant jogs, I guess. Oh, damn it. Now that one popped up way too quickly. Luckily, it didn't do any permanent damage.
Welcome to the cliff's edge. The last man standing will move on. And only the last man standing.
Bring it on!
This is going to be fun!
Okay, now that's just cheating. Attacking me right out of the cutscene like that, honestly. I'm trying to get the unique guy in the weird hood. But you know, I can do this too. And the spikes, from what I can tell, are broken torches.
Look good. Should be a good match.
That stuttering, I think, is actually in the video, because it has always happened in the same place every time I do this. Okay, so the special guy, by the way, is using Muay Thai. Into the gong. Oh, hang on. Apparently this guy decided to go after me, so there we go. Into the gong.
Not bad. I like his muscles.
And yeah, those two guys in the back there fighting each other are part of this. So you can see one of them finally got knocked down. Now you can tell he's special because he didn't go down immediately from the stun strike follow-up. Too bad for him, I was in face mode this whole time.
The victory goes to Wei Shen. Your next challenge is on the beach. Good luck, Wei Shen.
Just absolutely ruined him. Nope, can't go back. I mean, I will be able to do that once all is said and done. Like, you can come back here and replay any of the missions. But for the mission I'm on, I cannot go back down that path. Or at least not through that gate, because you can access a lot of these places by taking a boat around the sides of the island. But yeah, until then we've got a nice jog down another section of the island. And I did get all of the fire opal statues on that other path. So I'm in good shape. I won't need to repeat any part of this DLC to get all of the statues, because I will be getting all of them the first time around. Yeah, when you're here yourself, you need to make sure you look very carefully at the path, because if you can go even a little bit to one side, chances are good there's a statue hiding just past where the path diverges.
Wait, you going to the beach? Have some tea, man. You're going to need it.
Nan Quan, the School of the Southern Fist. An appropriate style given our location.
southern part of China. That's why it's appropriate. And in fact, you cannot go through that door until you fall for this incredibly obvious trap.
You'd better drink this tea! You'll be screwed without this tea!
Thanks. What the?
Get him! Your tournament is finished, you piece of shit!
Once again, the game reminds us that Wei Shen may be the player's avatar, but we are not in charge of Wei Chen's decisions. And the T, by the way, is pretty much just this weird visual effect. Damn, look at him go. Jeez. Tried to grapple him just before my face meter was full, because I wanted to do that to at least one of them. But yeah, like I was saying, this door here,
What the hell?
this door would not have opened at all before I drank the tea.
What was in that tea?
You know, I'm not sure, but apparently it has reversed all of the colors. But again, the controls are just fine. Wei Shen is as reactive as ever. You will fight just as well,
God damn you, fool!
despite the wobbly camera and the inverted color scheme. Oh, here we go.
The famous Jeet Kune Do. This is the school of the intercepting fist. Fast, furious, and in some ways immortal.
Yeah, literally. To the first part, not the latter part. Weird music is what really makes this sequence for me. I mean, it is kind of annoying to know that it's only visual. It has no mechanical effect, but still. Oh, there's some flashing behind the bush there.
This is the beach fight. Our competitor appears to be having trouble with his balance on the sand.
You're not ready for the likes of me. Wait till you see my style. Try that kung fu shit on me. I dare ya.
Dude, you're MMA. You use everything, including kung fu.
You fight my way today, nasty boy.
Poison, you cheating bastards!
How's your ground game, Shen? Never ends, does it?
Takes more than that to beat me!
So you see that 4-section circle beneath his
Gonna be no this time for you.
oh, damn it. I'm messing up the quick time events. But you see that 4-section circle underneath him? That's his health meter. See, one of them just disappeared after I did the leg breaker. But yeah, this actually, it exists for everybody you face. It's just, it only appears if you lock on normally. I only let him beat me up at the beginning to, make the odds better.
What happened to you? Poisoned, huh? Bastards tried that on me too. I wasn't dumb enough to drink it though. You tried, guys never learn. Not supposed to say this, but I think the flowers will help you out. My ama taught me about them years ago. Cure most poisons. Look for them in the rocks along the northern shoreline.
Thanks. Thank you.
Now, this is the annoying part. We're not actually going to be facing any enemies for this section, so that extremely low health there is just for effect.
Come on, Wei. Get it together.
But before I go for the antidote, You do recall that there was some flashing on the beach next to the arena here, don't you? I'd have walked, but right now, Wei Shen walks very, very slowly. As you can tell here. So I figured I should drive over in the boat instead.
Pao Chu, look for devotees to grapple if they can.
I said it before, but I really appreciate the jangling music in the background. And it's a good thing, too, because this sequence is way too long, even if you aren't on the hunt for the statues. But yeah, you can see on the mini-map there's this little bit of an area where you can walk on. It's right over here. And yeah, that's because there's yet another statue here, and apparently Wei Shen always gets off on the left side. Like, unless maybe there was a dock there, but there was a beach instead, so he mysteriously decided to jump off the wrong side of the boat.
The school of Kung Tao, practiced as far away as Indonesia, and as deadly there as it is here.
Alright, and that's all of the statues. So now you know where all of them are. And, yeah, they were pretty easy to find. Assuming you, just do a little bit of exploring. I found them all, pretty quickly. Like, just the first time I played this during my, practice runs.
Son of a bitch.
If it always jumps off the left side, I figured I might as well use it. And yeah, don't these flowers look familiar? Different color, maybe, but still.
Beach? Have some tea, man! You're going to need it!
What the? Where the hell?
Alright, I'm not sure how it happened, but we're here now. And yeah, that's why I wanted to do the statues on the way over, because there is no boat. They do not leave you with any boats. So you would have to find a boat or else swim across the island to get those statues, if I hadn't gotten them along the way during the sequence.
The 3 surviving contestants will fight the armies of the island in a battle royale in the sacred temple of the dead. Let the battle begin!
Well, hang on, you got a 4th contestant here. Just need to recharge my damage boost. And yeah, you don't need to time the attacks. You just hammer X for long enough and it'll happen.
What's this?
Wait!
Ah, gentlemen, we have a 4th contestant. It would appear that Mr. Wei Shen has resisted the intervention of some of our gamblers. Best of luck to you, Mr. Shen.
Take that one!
Alright. The Arena of Death, he called it. Those giant gears look rather conspicuous, but they aren't moving. Yet. Oh, hey. He grappled the cleaver away from that guy. And now I've got a cleaver too. Oh, apparently he wasn't down for good. And apparently the guy in the tracksuit's on my side.
Very impressive, gentlemen. worthy. Unfortunately for you, my audience demands that we determine a single winner.
Fuck you, we're not fighting each other.
Yeah, no way!
Oh, I think you are. You see this ceiling? It will continue to drop whether you fight or not. You can stand together and die. It will be most amusing to watch. Or you can fight. When only one of you is left standing, the ceiling will stop.
Son of a bitch!
Asshole.
The roof is dropping! Those spikes are real! Shit, brothers!
All right, let's do this.
All right, well, let's agree. The winner kills that fucker.
Agreed.
Agreed! Agreed!
Alright, here we go. Apparently the armies of the island aren't completely gone yet, because there's more than just 4 people to face here.
I'm not dying here! Every man for himself!
But yeah, it says right there at the top, throw enemies into the gears, and the spike ceiling will stop for a time. It's a good way to buy extra time.
I got no choice! They're not killing me out here!
Man, face mode is really helpful. But yeah, you can also see that the gears become occupied, so you only get so much bonus time.
I'm coming for you!
How do you propose to it? Oh, shit!
He was supposed to knock open that gate. Alright, now we're chasing this guy. Keeps throwing those little grenades, flashbangs behind him. As you might have guessed from the fact that he drank a bunch before starting this run, he is an expert at drunken boxing. Aw, oh, damn it.
You have it coming!
You are no match for me!
But yeah, you want to avoid the little flashing lights. It's actually rare that any of them do damage to you, but they do certainly stop your progress if you run straight into them. We're running up to the cliffside arena here. Unfortunately, there is no third destination outside of the temple.
You are a fool to fight me. Sorry, but I must kill you now.
Boss fight.
What the hell is that? Cut.
Yeah, I am Zhang, master of drunken style. You are no match for me. Glory over your head.
Yeah, this game represents drunken style by having the timing for his counters be a little bit weird, because he keeps dancing around you instead of just facing you straight up. But you can still totally dominate him.
I disown you.
Didn't really give him the chance to do any grapples. Oh well.
Truly, you are an impressive specimen, Wei Shen. The best I have ever brought to my island.
I'm glad you're impressed. You can take your happiness with you to the grave.
Wait! You are proud, but you do not want to do that.
I think I do. Good men died in that temple because of you.
Your fans paid more than $10 million to watch you fight. I made twice that, overseeing their betting on your performance. And twice that again, by betting you'd win the final battle. Kill me, and all that money will rot in a bank account forever. Become my partner, and I will share it with you.
$25 million, Wei Shen. A fair price for swallowing your pride, wouldn't you say?
No. Not even close.
The traditional end for a martial arts film. Alright, and all of that got me another Triad experience level. Mixed martial arts outfit and Muay Thai outfit. Because I got all the statues, I get a 40% damage boost in both of them, along with unique grapple attacks. Nice. Maxed out one of the 2 trees. I'm getting there, guys. Alright, and I can go back to the island anytime I want. As it says right there. There's a fast travel, but I can actually, you know, take a boat there too. And replay any of the missions. So, for today's film, I'm once again setting the request list aside because there's only one film I could possibly cover for this DLC. It's one of the original classics that made Kung Fu popular in the United States and helped produce the original Hong Kong superstar. It's also about a martial arts tournament that takes place on an island and has the protagonist go undercover to nail the crime boss in charge. That's right, it's the 1973 movie Enter the Dragon. The story about the story. Let me take you back to the early 70s. The state of Hong Kong cinema is at a low ebb thanks to oversaturation and low budgets, but there's still nothing better to do in the afternoon, so Hong Kong citizens pack the theaters. The riots of the Cultural Revolution are still fresh in people's minds, and so Kung Fu has become the dominant genre. If you can't defeat the imperial bourgeois in real life, watching some random asshole take down rich foreign capitalists and/or corrupt imperial officials is the next best thing. Now let's go back a few more decades to the San Francisco Chinatown. Bruce Lee was born to 2 Hong Kong natives, but because he was born on American soil, he started life with dual citizenship. So while his parents would soon move back across the Pacific and he would spend most of his childhood years in Hong Kong, Lee was free to return to the United States at any time and for as long as he liked, an opportunity he would take advantage of once he turned 18. By that point, Lee was already a student of the martial arts, specifically the Wing Chun style, an efficient and relatively practical Chinese martial art. Apparently, he was a personal student of Ip Man, a famous grandmaster who popularized the style in Hong Kong. Lee went to America to finish high school and go to a college, but he paid his way by teaching his own personal version of Wing Chun to anyone who would pay him. This is in contrast to most Chinese Americans in the 60s who would only teach their own. Meanwhile, like Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee was born into an acting family, and he had been in 20 movies by the time he left for America. Lee had set his acting career aside while he was studying in America, but he got noticed during a martial arts exhibition, and that led him to the role of Kato, the sidekick and chauffeur in the short-lived Green Hornet superhero show. This led to other smaller roles over the next few years, and he got to be a fight choreographer for some of Hollywood's earliest action movies. Now, there are some conflicting accounts about just how involved Bruce Lee was in the development of the 1972 show Kung Fu, but ultimately, the lead role went to David Carradine, and Warner Brothers denied that Lee was anything more than an actor whom they considered and then dropped because of his thick Hong Kong accent. But, considering what Lee did during Kung Fu's run, he probably should have thanked Warner Brothers for snubbing him. Hollywood distributes just about everywhere, and so The Green Hornet had reached Hong Kong and become a hit since the secondary protagonist was one of their own. This gave Lee the clout to immediately get a favorable contract and 2 leading roles from the then growing Golden Harvest Studios, and then, once The Big Boss and Fist of Fury became instant hits, he secured creative control, forming his own production company and getting the position of writer, director, and choreographer along with star for his next film, Way of the Dragon. At this point, Bruce Lee was a superstar in Asian markets, and a relatively well-known name in Hollywood. And so, in 1972, Warner Brothers approached Lee and Golden Harvest to jointly produce today's film, Enter the Dragon. This was the first time that Hollywood and Hong Kong had ever co-produced a film. And while the stipulations were more restrictive than what Lee was getting from Golden Harvest, he couldn't resist the wide exposure a Hollywood production would get him. He stopped production on his latest movie, Game of Death, and made the film. And sure enough, Enter the Dragon is probably the most famous film Lee ever made, and it turned a budget of $850,000 into a $90 million worldwide box office smash. Unfortunately, Lee did not live long enough to enjoy his success. In 1973, days before Enter the Dragon came out, a chronic head injury flared up, and so a friend gave him a tranquilizer, and an allergic reaction to that tranquilizer made his brain swell up until he died. His death was tragic, pointless, and far too early. But he at least left us with some good movies, so let's set aside Lee's death to discuss the story. The movie begins with martial arts. Bruce Lee, whose character's name is Lee, is in a showcase match with a big dude. He's just throwing that guy all over the place. And even if you guys can't hear it, I just have to say how weird it is to hear American ADR sound effects for the fight scenes instead of the Hong Kong sound effects. It's kind of like turning on your car and hearing a lawnmower engine start up. It's weird. Lee is a Shaolin monk. He's not at the Shaolin monastery, but that's because even in Chinese fiction, the Shaolin are an order of monks rather than just the one temple. During a meeting with his Sifu, his master, Lee learns about Han, a former monk who defied the temple and turned their teachings to his own evil ends. Inspector Braithwaite has come to the temple because Han is holding a martial arts tournament, and he figures he can use one of the monks to reach Han and get some solid evidence. So the temple is giving him Lee. After a credit sequence showing us our other two leads, Roper and Williams, Braithwaite gives us some exposition. Han operates out of a private island sitting partially in Hong Kong waters. He claims he runs a martial arts school there, but it's actually his headquarters for an international drug and slavery ring. He's a master martial artist in his own right, but he also has a bodyguard, O'Hara, who's almost as good as him. Braithwaite can't give Lee a gun, but luckily Han doesn't keep any guns in his fortress to avoid being raided by Hong Kong authorities. Also, there's a female operative on the island, Mei Ling, whom Lee should contact if he can. Then, just to make things personal, an old friend of Lee's brings up a time when he and Lee's sister were attacked by O'Hara and Han's men. Apparently she was a martial artist, so she put up a decent fight, but she eventually got cornered and, rather than let them have their way with her, she killed herself. And that old man must be some kind of asshole not to tell Lee why his sister committed suicide before now. So that's Lee's story, but we're not done with flashbacks yet. Next, we learn about Roper, an apparently rich white dude from America, played by John Saxon. Saxon has been in a lot of movies and TV shows over the years, and he's a real-life karate master. But right now, he's got a big debt with the mob, and he figures entering the tournament will be his chance to clear the debts and restart his fortune. Finally, there's Williams, played by blaxploitation actor and fellow karate master Jim Kelly. In his flashback, Williams gets hassled by some cops, and when the hassling becomes threats, William kicks both their asses and steals their police car for good measure. Roper and Williams meet on the ship. It turns out they were in the same unit back in Vietnam. However, they don't know Lee, and they don't know what their host Han does for a living. But they get to know Lee on the ship ride over, along with Parsons, a New Zealander who likes to bully the Chinese crew. Parsons challenges Lee when he says his style is fighting without fighting, so Lee gives him a demonstration by tricking him into a boat and keeping the boat behind the ship for the rest of the trip. The ship arrives at the island, and a sweeping shot reveals that, if nothing else, Han does have hundreds of students at his school. The fighters attend a banquet in their honor, but Lee is on guard, and both Roper and Williams are suspicious. Han makes his big entrance to welcome the fighters, and he takes a moment to establish that the women who surround him are all trained fighters. After that, the host brings women to each of the fighters' rooms, and Lee takes advantage of this to contact Mei Ling, whom he saw during the banquet. Unfortunately, she doesn't have much to say, except that women go to Han's room and never return. The next morning, the tournament begins. While everyone else wears the regulation yellow and black gi, Lee makes a point of going in his Shaolin uniform. The first fight is between Williams and Parsons, and it does not go well for Parsons. Roper is up next, and he conspires with Williams to throw the first couple of rounds to trick someone in the audience into betting against him. That night, Lee sneaks out of his guarded room. He gets to the grounds without raising an alarm and discovers a concealed hatch. Climbing down it, he finds an underground base full of workers and chemicals. But before he can explore, some topside guards find the rope he used and cut it. Fortunately, 3 guards are not enough to stop Bruce Lee. When the tournament resumes the next morning, Han is upset by the security breach. And since his guards didn't catch or identify Lee, he has the 4 who fell to Lee fight a big dude named Bolo to win back his respect. But instead, Bolo kills them all. After that, the fights resume, and it's Lee against O'Hara. Despite the build-up with O'Hara, it turns out the guy is woefully outclassed next to Lee. And even when he loses his temper and starts cheating, Lee just nails him with one punch and kick after another. Eventually, O'Hara breaks a couple of bottles for weapons, and so Lee kicks him down and stomps him dead. The death and the disgrace of O'Hara's actions end the matches early. Han brings Williams to his office and asks him why he attacked the guards. I didn't mention this earlier, but Williams stepped out the same night as Lee to exercise in the moonlight. Williams saw Lee escaping, but he refuses to snitch, and he fights off all of Han's guards. Against Han himself, however, Williams doesn't stand a chance, partly because Han has a steel left hand. Next, Han brings Roper to his death museum to chat him up. He even takes Roper on a tour of his underground facility and asks him to be an American contact for his operation. Making these connections is a main reason why Han holds his tournaments. But while Roper is kind of sleazy, he is not at all on board with Han's drug and sex slave factory, especially when he sees Williams' mangled corpse. He accepts Han's offer to clear his debts and be his contact, but only because he's backed into a corner. Meanwhile, Lee returns to last night's infiltration spot and starts exploring. He briefly deals with a snake Han had set at the grate, and then uses it to scare a couple of guards out of a radio room. Using the radio sets off an alarm, but it lets him contact Inspector Braithwaite. A bunch of guards attack Lee, and hey, there's Jackie Chan! It's kinda hard to tell, what with him being young and having that 70s haircut, but he's the guy that Lee grabs and neck snaps. Lee tries to escape, but instead a bunch of guys with sticks charge him. So now it's a stick battle, and Lee takes full advantage of the variety of sticks to beat people up in all kinds of creative ways. And then, oh shit, some idiot gave him nunchucks. Unfortunately, he doesn't get very far before he gets trapped by steel doors. Han gives Roper a chance to prove his loyalty by fighting Lee, but Roper refuses, and Mei Ling sneaks off. So Roper fights Bolo, the big guy, and he makes a point of doing so alone. Bolo gets Roper into an arm lock, but Roper gets out of it by biting his calf. After that, Roper gets the upper hand, and eventually knocks Bolo out. Han is angry now, and he sets his guards on both Lee and Roper. But before they can get overwhelmed by sheer numbers, the captives Mei Ling freed join the melee. Seeing that the battle is going against him, Han replaces his fake hand with a claw and goes for Lee directly. But Han's claw gets stuck on a table, and he runs into his death museum to get a better claw. After that, Han gets a couple of good strikes in, but otherwise, Lee dominates the fight. Han retreats through a moving wall into a room full of mirrors, and I believe this was the first time this cinematic trick was ever used, or at least this was the movie that popularized it. The two sneak around, carefully avoiding the angles that would reveal the set crew. And eventually, Lee gets the idea to cut out the confusion by smashing every single mirror in the room. Since he can now see only one clear Han, Lee is able to kick him onto a spear, killing him. Back outside, Roper and the prisoners have won, just in time for Braithwaite to show up and not do anything. The end. The style. Before I begin on the style, let me just say this. Enter the Dragon absolutely oozes with style and has a decent story for the era and the genre, but it suffers from being an early American action movie. They had gunplay down thanks to years of making westerns and noirs, but hand-to-hand combat was new to Hollywood, and so fights tend to be simple and abrupt, plus the camera keeps zooming in too far to show off the action. So if you want to see Bruce Lee at his best, you should watch one of his Hong Kong movies, like Fist of Fury. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, Bruce Lee's style started out as a personalized version of Wing Chun, a style he studied in Hong Kong. But as time went on and Lee started teaching others, he became fed up with the rote nature of kung fu forms, the Tao Lu or the kata that take you through a few dozen moves in one specific order that you're not allowed to vary. That approach made no sense to him, since while it does teach you combat moves, it puts those moves in a very non-combat context. So instead, Bruce Lee studied various styles from China and other nations during his time in America. He also preferred the idea of competitions with as few rules as possible, meaning things like groin shots and eye gouging were on the table as far as he's concerned. He also disliked the idea of calling his style a style at all, since that implies it favors some moves over others when what it's really about is finding the best move that works for a specific fighter in a specific moment of a fight. He wanted his students to train themselves to expect and react to anything, because anything can happen during a fight. And as he says in Enter the Dragon, don't think, feel. As such, Jeet Kune Do is better described as a combat philosophy rather than a set style, and it doesn't teach any of the long Tao Lu of regular Chinese martial arts. The name means Way of the Intercepting Fist, a term he borrowed from the Wing Chun name for a counterpunch. But while Jeet Kune Do doesn't emphasize moves, it does emphasize other points, so let's get to elaborating. Speed is key in Jeet Kune Do. Get your strikes in quick, before the opponent has a chance to react, and then skip out of their range before they can retaliate. After all, if you can harm your enemy without being harmed yourself, you'll always win. Another important point is what's called economy of motion. This is related to speed, since a simple and a direct move is usually the fastest. Plus, you won't run out of stamina even if you're going fast if you move as little as possible. This is a direct contrast to the sort of spinning kicks and jumping attacks that make many Chinese kung fu styles memorable, but at the same time impractical. Flipping through the air and landing with a kick may look impressive, but you aren't trying to impress your opponent. You're trying to hurt them, and your moves should reflect your motivation. Because of this, and because Jeet Kune Do also goes into the mechanics of fighting, it's very much a hybrid combat style that precedes MMA and Shuto, but follows Krav Maga and Systema. The style borrows most heavily from Wing Chun and Western boxing, since that's where Bruce Lee got most of his personal techniques, but if you're not willing to borrow from other styles to suit your needs, you're not doing Jeet Kune Do right. Thanks for joining me again for today's film review, and I hope I'll see you next time for another movie remade in the West. But in this case, Martin Scorsese was perfectly willing to admit where he got the idea.